Welcome to this Advanced Welsh Bacc student support screencast for the individual project. This video focuses on your primary research, but more specifically your questionnaire. Hi everyone, just a quick reminder regarding the difference between your primary research and secondary research. Primary is research that you have conducted, collected and analysed. Secondary research is research that's been done by someone else, and it's research that you're using to inform your project. So this is focused on you completing the research. So the success criteria to start with is you need to be designing a questionnaire that is between, let's say, 10 to 20 questions long. Any longer than that, just as a general opinion, it might be a bit too long and people won't complete your questionnaire. Any less than 10 and you're not going to be getting enough data or information to analyze. So somewhere in between that is where we suggest. It needs to be a combination of open and closed questions. We'll be going through the definitions of open and closed questions within this video. Okay, so please just listen out for that. And also you need to be considering the level 3 numeracy requirements. There is a lecture by Mrs. Thomas regarding level 3 numeracy and how to achieve it in your individual project. It is in this series of videos and it's available on the Google Classroom. You need to be considering that before you create all of your questions for your questionnaire, because there are some approaches that you need to take to give you the right data to hit that level 3 numeracy. Remember that level 3 numeracy, you are assessed on the basis of level 1, level 2, level 3, so it is achieving that top end. You need to be using Google Forms to create your questionnaire, and you need to be then obviously sharing it with your sample. Obviously at GCSE, a lot of you use Google Forms, which is great. Within this video, I'm going to be showing you a few other things that you need to consider when using Google Forms. So please, again, just listen out for that part in this video. You need to use the data and information collected and use relevant digital techniques to display the findings and results. Okay, so data and information, just a reminder, obviously data is numbers and information is opinions and insights. So when you're creating your questionnaire, you are going to be collecting a combination of data, numbers, and information, opinions, and insights. And then you need to be considering in your project how you're going to digitally display those results. Now, obviously, it's much easier to digitally display data than it is information. So we're going to be going through that in this video as well, and how to achieve that. Being able to digitally display your data is a required skill for the individual project. So again, you need to be listening out to that part of that video specifically. And obviously, if you've got the charts created and the graphs, you need to be interpreting them and analyzing them in detail, whether it's the data or whether it's the information. And what you're doing then is drawing relevant conclusions regarding your primary research. Now, the word count, as always, it's only a guide. Just if anyone does hit the 1500 word count, that does not automatically mean you hit A star, A and B. It is always on the quality of your writing, but we do advise that you hit the 1500 words for your primary research. It can go down to the 700, but 700 is on the smaller level regarding word count being too short, but somewhere in between that would work well. And then as a C grade, 500 to 700, but again, there's nothing stopping any candidate, going for that top word count, even if they aren't necessarily predicted A star, A or B in their other A levels. Now, when creating your questionnaire, there's a number of different types of questions that you can ask, and Google Forms allows you to ask those questions. They are a combination of open-ended questions and closed questions. So if we look at some examples, okay, I'll just be going through. They're on screen as well. So the good thing with this being a video is that you can pause it and you can make notes as you're going along, rather than me necessarily just reading out every single one. So the first one we're looking at is open-ended questions. Now these are good at getting opinions and insights from your sample. The only difficult aspect of open-ended questions is displaying your findings. It doesn't really allow you to display it in, let's say, a pie chart or any kind of graph. It restricts you, but that doesn't mean you can't use the information and analyze the information. So you've got a couple of examples there of open-ended questions which allow the candidate to, or the sample, to answer in any way they want. Number two, I mentioned it, closed-ended questions. So this gives your sample an option of what to answer, or they are simply asking for an answer that is very clear, whether it's a yes or a no. So closed-end questions are much easier to quantify in graphs and charts, because you will have a number of people that will say yes, a number of people will say no. Rating questions that can be used simply. The examples there: how would you rate our service out of 5? Now if you wanted people to answer in that way, Google Forms allow you to do that. You've got scale questions, like on a scale to how much do you agree with a personal statement, and you can give them a number of whatever you want, 1 to 5, 1 to 10. Again, Google Forms allows you to do that. Multiple choice questions, probably the most popular when it comes to individual projects. This can range from opinion scale questions such as strongly agree, agree, neutral, disagree, strongly disagree, to other kind of multiple choice, such as you can go along any aspect that you want them to answer regarding multiple choice. You might have a specific idea about what you want to be asking, but as I said, mostly opinion scales tend to work well because they can be quantified in graphs. This is not used very often, but it is an option where you give people a set of pictures. Again, Google Forms functions in this way, and it can allow you to use pictures as part of the multiple choice. Demographic questions are very important, certainly at advanced level, because it allows you to analyze your data and information on another level. I'll explain this later on in the video, but it is very important in the first few questions to get an idea of who is taking your sample. So questions regarding gender, age, and the industries that they work in possibly might be really useful, and I'll be able to explain how you can use that extra layer of information to really engage in your graphs and your findings. So now we've just got a quick video about how to create a questionnaire. Now, for a lot of you, you know exactly how to create a questionnaire, but there's a few other functions I want to show you. So on the screen now is how you get to your Google Forms. If you just go through the waffle on your Google, that's what it's called, in the top right hand corner, and you've got the option then to create a blank questionnaire with the plus. This just gives you a basic screen just like this here, where you can change the name of your quiz, and you can add your description just at the top here, so whoever's going to be taking your questionnaire will be answering or reading that before they answer. So types of questions, I'm just going to show you how you might do this. So we mentioned about open and closed questions, didn't we? So you've got the option of doing either in Google Forms. As you can see here, I'm going to go for multiple choice to start with, so this would be regarded as a closed question. So I mentioned earlier about strongly agree, and what's really useful, you can add all of those there. They know what you're talking about, but you can just kind of click on the ones you want. And the great thing about this is then you obviously have your statement at the top there, and you can copy rather than create a new question every single time. So yeah, as I just mentioned, it is a closed question. It's not an open question because there's a definite outcome that you want to be answered. If we look at other options that you can do, we mentioned about linear scale. Okay, on a scale of 1 to 5, there's the option there that you can use. There's such as multiple choice grid, okay, which gives you the opportunity to add a lot more choice regarding selections. Tick boxes, again, not very popular, but multiple choice is definitely the most popular when it comes to dissertations or individual projects. So we'll look at open questions here now. This is really simple. You just state what you want them to write, and you've got either a short answer or a paragraph. So if you want them to be in more detail, they can answer in a longer version. This button here, if you click it on, it means that they can't finish the questionnaire without answering it. So that's something that's really important. You can add images to engage your sample. So you can either pop in the URL or just search on Google Image. So I'll just search up school, click on the first one I find, and it can just go straight into the questionnaire, and you can see it's there. Now that opens up on a different page, but you can add a picture just to your questionnaire. As you can see the image there, and it'll add, we'll go search for house this time, and you can add any images you want to engage, and the picture then appears on the question. Okay, so that can be really useful as well to stimulate and motivate people to answer. You can add YouTube videos. Okay, so if you've got the URL, you can copy and paste that in. There's loads of different functions. What I suggest is you have a little play with that. Now, obviously, you want to see or you want to kind of look at how your questionnaire looks. You can pick colors, you can pick images that you can add to it, give it a real professional look. So yeah, I've just done an example there. You can change the fonts as you go along, and probably this preview button is really useful because it gives you an idea of what it looks like for your sample. Okay, so you might be able to, at the proofreading stage, go on this just to make sure that your questionnaire looks how you want it to look. Now this settings button is very important, certainly at advanced level. So if we click on this, you can see some of the extra things you can do. You can collect the emails of people that are doing it. You can limit people to response. They can edit their responses. There's other options here about showing progress bars. Making it a quiz allows you to assign points. You're probably not wanting this to be a quiz, so you just make sure you kind of click that off because you're not awarding any marks. If you look down here, obviously you've got other options such as making copies. You can add people if you're wanting to work with people with your questionnaire, not for the individual project, but maybe for one of the other assignments. This is how you share your questionnaire then, so you can do it via email. This is probably the most useful, is with a link. Now you can copy that, but Control-C, or the button at copy, or you can shorten the URL, which I tend to do. Copy, hit the copy button, and depending on who your sample is, you got to place it where your sample are most likely going to take it. So you can use the Google Classroom as your platform if your sample is based in school, and you can identify the people you want to take your questionnaire by kind of just adding your link to the top here. I've pasted the link that I just copied, and it goes straight in, and I might just type something like this: please take my questionnaire. You see the all students button there. If you want a certain certain person or certain group of people to take it, you can select those. So that's quite useful at advanced level, and you just post it. Okay, so that's about creating a questionnaire. As I said, a lot of it you would already kind of understand because you would have done it at GCSE, but there are a few more elements that I showed you there for you to consider at advanced level. So what we're going to be looking at now is once you have collected all of your data, once your questionnaire has been completed and you're ready to use it, how you might do that. So what we've got here, I'm on my questionnaire that I've used. So this is just something I've done in school. It's not a student's piece of work, but you can see you access it through your forms. Okay, so if I click on my forms there, you can see every form that I've ever created kind of pops up here. So I'm just going to make sure I go back to the one that I was just on, and it's right there. It is. So I've got my responses and my questions at the top here, and I click on my responses, and this is quite interesting because it offers you the outcome of those multiple choice questions, and you can simply copy this graph by clicking this button and pasting it into the document that you're using, and you can analyze that. That's one option for you. You can obviously look at how people have responded per question. So if we look here, you can see how many people responded number-wise. That might be a set of data that you might want to explore. Individual kind of feedback, so you can look at how people have fed back in that way. And you've got all of your respondents. There's 65 people responded here. But probably the most useful for you is to use the Excel sheet, okay, or the sheets in Microsoft, which will give you kind of an Excel version of all of your responses. Now this is really useful at advanced level because it allows you to look at the data very closely and produce your own graphs. You can look, if you've put in questions about kind of the gender or age of someone, you can look for trends in certain questions. So if there was a question such as, I was greeted at the door, let's say, like one of those questions that you've just seen, you can then look specifically at let's say the age of what people have said what, and again that will be shown more later on in this video. It's difficult to explain while I'm trying to show you how to create the graph. So as you can see here, once you've done that, this is the option that you need to go into to create your graphs. So based on that information, you can insert all of your data into this graph quite simply. Here's the data that I might be analyzing specifically. I need to click on the graph. I might just pop another graph in here as well. There we go. And we'll go for a bar chart. Okay, now if you kind of click on these bar charts, you can hit the arrow here and open source, and that opens the area you have to insert your data. So I'll just, as an example, I may as well show you now. You can see there, and what's really useful, it shows you what the graph looks like as you're editing it. Because sometimes it can be difficult to see which part you need to edit. So I'm going to go here, let's say I'm going to break down my responses by male and female responses, and you can see on the graph at the bottom there it's updating as we go along. And let's say I had asked a question with strongly agree, the opinion scale questions that I was talking about. It just gives me the option to add the data that I need. Now I'm saying this because it's not quite good enough for you just to copy the Google pie chart, because you haven't necessarily demonstrated that you can create your own graphs. So I do suggest that you create the graphs based on the data collected, even if they look very similar to the ones that Google have produced, but you just need to kind of show that you have demonstrated the ability to create your own graphs. Once you've done that and you go back into the document, it's important to hit the update button, okay, which will then update your graph with the data that you have just added, okay, which is there. Okay, so we've gone through how to create your questionnaire. We've gone through about how to access the data so that you can create your graphs. And I've mentioned about kind of higher level graph creation. Now, simply put, this is more than looking at what the outcome of one question was. So let's say you had an opinion scale question that was answered with strongly agree, agree, disagree, strongly disagree. You would have, let's say, 25 people that answered that, and you would have a pie chart there that would say the percentage of people that answered strongly disagree, percentage agree, etc. Now, adding another element to your graph adds another layer of analysis. So the example that you can see in front of you now, okay, has been broken down into gender. Now, I showed you how to do that in the previous slide, how to edit a graph in that way. But if you were to make sure that you had a question that either kind of looked at gender or age or profession, you would be able to then, if I'm using my example of the pie chart, I'm not just analyzing the findings of everyone, I'm then able to analyze the findings. If I did it by gender, like I am here, okay, I could actually start analyzing the trends regarding gender and how they answered. So that might throw up some really interesting analysis. Again, this is higher level stuff, okay? If you're really aiming for the top grades, you need to be demonstrating that you can do this. On another level then, if you have kind of broken it down by gender, there's nothing stopping you then looking at age answers as well. You need that Excel document that I just showed you, which with all of your data and information from your questionnaire to produce graphs such as the one here. So as I mentioned, the advanced analysis opportunities by doing graphs like the one you see on screen now, it gives you the ability to not only analyze your results, but analyze your results by gender, analyze your results by age, and then another level, analyze by gender and age. So if you can just imagine the first bullet point there, analyze results, is what your questionnaire, the Google kind of standard pie graph that they give you. And that's all the analysis that you'll be able to do, okay? Because you're just going to be analyzing the findings. But by doing something like this, you can see you've got a far more in-depth opportunity to analyze your data. So I've just used a pie chart just as an example here, and the response structure that will really help you is on screen now. So when you have got a graph, if you think in this way, in a response structure, it can really ensure that you hit every part that you need to in regards to your analysis of your primary research of information and data. Now, response structures we use quite heavily if you do English GCSE, so these will look similar, okay, but they work very well at GCSE and they will work very well at advanced level. So you've got evidence and findings, okay, as your first kind of sentence, where you just kind of look at what the outcomes were. You're not necessarily analyzing at this point, you're merely stating what you see. What did the results throw up? The green then offers the more analysis, okay, where you start to explain the results, where you might refer to what you might have expected to see, or what you would have predicted that the results might have been. And then on to the explore, okay, which is when you start pushing your analysis a little bit further. So if you think back to the previous slide where I showed you that the ability to like look at gender and look at age as well as the results, okay, that would be your explore, quite simply, where you start exploring the correlation in gender, maybe in age, or any kind of trends that you've seen. But when you're exploring, it's just pushing it a little bit further, okay? You can be more personal when you look at explore. You can look at the context. So for instance, if you look at the question that was given you, or the statement, social media has a negative impact on mental health, okay? And You can see there's only 4 respondents there because I've just done it for the example. But you might want to throw in a little bit more context here. You might throw in that if this was completed during the current lockdown that we are in, you might be looking at you expected trends in mental health issues possibly to be more visible at this point. Okay, so explore is that opportunity to push it that little bit further, where you possibly look at the data from another point of view and offer another reading. Okay, so where you've just explained what it might be, consider other reasons why the results showed what they show. I'm not going to go through the example there, but that's an example of how you might analyze one, as you can see, chart there. Again, if I go back to that graph that we looked at, where you've got the multiple levels of analysis that you can do, it offers you so much more. Okay, so really consider those people aiming for the top grades to create your own graphs in that way, which give you the ability to analyze on so many different levels, because it makes that explore so much easier. Now, I know that was a long video, okay, but it is a very important part of your individual project. So please don't try and take it all in one sitting. You might need to revisit this, you might need to pause, make notes, or just focus on one part that I've shown you today, because I've shown you multiple aspects of the primary research, ranging from how to create your questionnaire to how to collect your data, how to then access your data, and then how to present your data. Okay, so please don't just watch this once and expect to be able to do it. You're going to need to revisit it. Just a reminder for you to watch the level 3 numeracy video that's also in this collection. It's also on the sixth form website and the Google Classroom. That is going to enable you to hit the level 3 numeracy. And remember, there are aspects in that lecture from Mrs. Thomas that you require in your questionnaire, the types, the layout of your questionnaire. So please watch that before you create and share your questionnaire. Thanks for watching.